and now we are moving slightly changing gear to with the next two talks we're going to explore how some of the tools are actually going to be used more for commercial purposes rather than on a project-based setting. So the first talk is, do you have a presentation? It's a two-voice talk from Claire and Mélodie. And I know they're very nervous. Are you nervous?
Oh, yes, so much.
Yeah, very nervous. So I would like to give them, put your hands together to encourage them. Oh, 15 minutes, yeah, in total.
No, yeah,
15,
just
15
a bit.
minutes.
Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. We are very pleased to be here. My name is Claire Thomas. I work in a French SME named Transvalor. I'm working in the department which is taking care of SODA, the SODA website here. And I will let my colleague introduce herself.
Hey, so Mélodie Trollier. I'm PhD student at Ming Paris Tech in the OEO Center, and I'm working on taking into account the long-term viability of solar resource for solar project.
Okay, so first I would like to start by saying thank you to the SODA customers who answered positively to our invitation. So thank you so much. So the purpose of this speech is that we would like to report the most frequent questions that we received on the SODA website, on our SODA interface. And to make it a bit more sympathetic, we ask Mélodie, and also to make the link between industry and research, we ask Mélodie to try to give us a few insights about climate so that I can give back to my users. So what is SODA? SODA in 2003, it's the end of the SODA project. But at the same time, it's the beginning of the website. On this website, you will find a lot of resources related to solar energy. Most of them are for free, and a few are for pay. And this website results from approximately 25 years of research of the Ming Paris Tech Research Center. What happened in 2009 is that they were completely overwhelmed by the numerous requests received by email. So they asked Transvalor to be in charge of, to take the responsibility of the help desk of SODA. So what is SODA today? In a few figures, SODA is 5 full-time employees in Transvalor only, in my SME. It's one Facebook page, more than 120 testimonies of users. We receive, just to give you an idea, we receive approximately 3,000 pertinent emails per year. We have on the SODA website, you can find 60 web services. So you have 59 for free and 30 on-demand services. Most of them are not for free. And we have 70 annual subscription and more than 342,000 automatic requests to access every day our satellite-derived solar radiation database ELOCIM3. Okay? We have a very large diversity of user profile, from the very little student in his office until the biggest company, until the biggest company, which is international. And of course, our customers are worldwide. We have people in Brazil and we have people in South Korea. Okay, we will focus now on the questions that have been reported only on a part of our audience. And this part of our audience is represented by the companies who want to build a PV project. They are going to build a report, they are going to present to the bank to win a loan to build their project. So what happened in the past? What was their constraints? At the very beginning, you have a relatively low number of pertinent actors on the market. The feed-in tariff was very high, and you were at quite a lot of lucrative potential projects on the market. So life was quite easier in the past. But now, things becomes a bit more complicated. Even if it's now cheaper to install a PV plant, you have much more relevant actors on the market. You have to build a very larger report for the banks. The feed-in tariffs are lower, of course, and you have fewer projects on the market. So now the funding of projects becomes really tight. So how do they build their report? Okay? So we are here today, and they are looking for 10 years up to 20 years of bankable data. What is bankable data? It's either pyranometric in situ measurements on the ground or satellite measurements calibrated with in situ measurements. These are the only trustable bankable data for them to build their project and to get their financing. Okay? And what is the underlying assumption is that the potential, the solar potential assessed today with past data will be still valid after 20 to 30 years, of which correspond approximately to the lifetime of the project, or let's say the duration of reimbursements of the loan, by just taking into account some kind of coefficient of uncertainty. This coefficient of uncertainty should represent two things. The first one should represent the uncertainty of the past data, the bankable data, but also climate variability. All this in one figure like this. Okay. Okay. So now it's really more complicated to get some funding. To remain competitive, they will have to do the following things. They have to increase the accuracy of their report, so decrease the uncertainty, improve the monitoring of their installation, and have a better prediction of their maintenance operation. They need to reduce their margin, so they win less money, okay? And they lengthen the loan duration. Okay? So of course, with this, all these constraints and also this temporal horizon of 20 to 30 years, they start wondering what can I pick from climate to have a better insight of climate variability, and maybe adjust my coefficient of uncertainty. And that's why we started as a SME, as an intermediate between the research world and the user. We're starting to pay attention to the Copernicus climate services. So we will organize this way. I will summarize the four main questions that I received, and as soon as I ask a question, she will give an insight. The first one is, it's based.
You go. Continue.
Okay. It's based. Thank you very much. It's based on past data. Of course, I remind you that they only are using a bankable data, and it's only available, let's say, 10 to 20, over 10 or 20 years. So of course, a bank would be reassured if you say, okay, instead of taking into account, let's say, 15 years of data, I will give you 50 years of data. Of course, I would be reassured. So the question of my user is, can I use climate projection in the past to build my report as bankable data? So I will let Mélodie answer.
Yes. So the question is using climate projection in the past instead of usual data. So classically, I start to do the kind of plot that user classically done at the beginning. I'm looking at my bankable data, so the in situ data and the satellite data in the big plot. I'm sorry for the quality, but I have the same problem to all of the people. So you have here for a station in France, Carpentras, so the different irradiance, and you have in the other curve the different climate models provided by the ECEM Demonstrator. So for reminder, we have 6 climate models representing the 11 Eurocodex model. And so what I'm seeing at the beginning, it's if I'm comparing just my in situ data with one of my climate model, this is just really different. So the first classical and basic answer to the clear question is no, you cannot take one model and saying it's a bankable data. This is not possible. But you can have some information from this climate data. Because as Robert said yesterday, the job of the climate data is not so much to have temporal information, but more an idea of what the climate is. So I can have an idea of the variability of my climate, in which intersection I can be. And the ECEM Demonstrator will give you this kind of information. When I'm looking, so this is for the same, for the cluster where Carpentras, my station, is, I can plot the ensemble mean. And of course, if I'm looking at the reanalysis, which seems to be the reality in the ECEM Demonstrator, I see if I'm comparing the ensemble mean and the reanalysis, this is nonsense. I can take one for the other. But if I take the smooth mean and max, so an idea of the variation of my climate, I'm globally in this scope. There are some exceptions, but globally I have an idea of my climate during this period. And that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this brilliant insight. Okay, here is my second question. One of my customers sent me an email saying, okay, I saw on the ECEM website that you have really two really interesting key messages on temperature. And I really would like to have the same on radiation. Why there is no similar message on radiation?
Thank you, Claire. So now you're super familiar with this kind of plot because you've seen it since yesterday. But if I'm looking, so for the region of Paris in Ile-de-France, the temperature signal, I see, so for the reanalysis in green, we are really in the variability of the climate, so this is a good point. The spread between my model are quite low, so I have a robustness between my result, and I have a clear trend observed. It's clearly increasing. And this result, you can make the test on the different clusters of the demonstrator. There are no dependency on the geographical area. So I have all my model more or less agree on all the geographical pattern, so I have a reliable result and a key message easily to communicate. When I'm looking at the global horizontal irradiance, this message is not so easy. Firstly, because with the spread of the model are larger, we have no clear trend, we easily see there, and they are not the same between the different clusters. Some cluster in some geographical area, we have a trend to increase irradiance, in other decreasing, but most part they are not clear trends, so difficulty to have statistical robust results. So the key message is really more complex to give to the user. So, and this difficulty could come different parts. Firstly, the modelization of aerosol depending on the model, and secondly, in the difficulty to model the cloud cover. Because you know, on climate model we have a large pixel, and there are a lot of physical phenomenon driving the cloud cover which occurs into this pixel. So it will be more difficult to have this kind of result than for temperature.
Okay, thank you, Mélodie. So this is the third question, and I will give quite quickly the answer because I would like to focus on the fourth one. On the SODA website, I put a before-after picture. It's a screenshot of the ECEM Demonstrator, and I wrote on my website, because I'm new in the domain, I said it's trends on solar radiation. You have the solar radiation before, it was for, I don't know, it's MAM, so it's in the spring, in the past, and spring in the future. And I said, okay, these are trends on solar radiation. And I have a customer telling me, how trustworthy are these results? If I have a plant in Germany and a plant in Spain, if in Spain it's gonna raise, should I sell, if I have to choose, should I sell the German one? And when I asked Mélodie for an answer, she told me, some analysis, some ideas of results. She told me, okay, this is not trends, because if you compare two periods of time, and you take two other ones, this is trends, okay, you can say, okay, you cover the full period and you have the same trends, but this is not trends, and this is not trends as well. So I have to be really careful, and I have to change the message I put on my SODA website. Because, okay, we will switch this one. What I really need to send to my customers is that they should not use the plot as is without any documentation and without taking care of what is inside, what does it mean. And also, it's just to create awareness, to raise questions, and to collect feedbacks. So the last one, we will try to make it quick. So I had another question which is quite important from my user. I said, okay, if I have a very good year of production, the banks and investors are very, very happy. But things becomes very more complicated when I have a bad year. The question is, in the lifetime of the project, how many times can I expect to have another bad year? And can I have several consecutive bad years? And so Mélodie will give an insight about her PhD.
Yeah, yes, clearly. So I will not give you the answer, of course, because it's a complicated question, but we have some question on how to define a bad year. What does it really represent? Is it climate variability of an extreme event? And as a consequence, how to estimate variability. And there are really different definitions depending on the energy sector, industrial, or climate variable. And so do not hesitate to ask me some questions during the break, because there are different things to say about.
Okay, so to conclude, we would like to thank you for your attention. We have many more questions that we received, and we will share this document with the C3S Symposium. And we also invite you to come and discuss with us at the station as the station discussion later at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So this was a very good presentation. Of course, we cannot answer all the questions because otherwise the business shuts down. No? So